What's up, YouTube? I'm here in my garage. Shout out Ty Lopez. Shout out. I just wanted to talk a little bit about this situation that happened recently, like 3 weeks ago or so, between Sam Harris and Ezra Klein. It first came to my attention. I mean, I'm a pretty regular listener of the Joe Rogan podcast. I think it's a pretty quality program. I think even though Joe doesn't admit it, I think he's right-leaning, but I mean, there's no way you can't give him credit for having full-on, like, liberal leftist guests on, even. And again, I think I've personally been fascinated by a lot of the right-wing people. My own personal background is I was someone who was kind of just not very aware of what was going on in the 2016 election, and just sort of believed the media that Hillary was going to win. And then when Trump won, it was kind of, for me, it was like, wow, like, I really feel like I was being lied to. And, just partially through listening to Joe Rogan, I've become aware of all, like, the right-wing figureheads, that have the quote-unquote alt-right, which, I mean, I think is stupid. Like, I find Milo interesting. I find I like Ben Shapiro a lot. I think he's really smart and capable of conveying information in a way where I always feel like I've learned after, like, I'm smarter after I listen to him talk about something, even if I don't agree with him all the time. Blah blah blah. You got to throw that in. Who else is there? Gavin McInnes. I think he's not. I wouldn't call him like a genius or anything, but he's entertaining, and his Joe Rogan podcasts were, like, incredible. And so all this to say, Jordan Peterson. There's another guy. Anyway, all this to say, and I noticed, like, with this right-wing thing, something that that they really have going for them, which the left doesn't necessarily have, is this sort of sense of community. That's the way it seems, anyway, to an outside observer. Like, all those guys pretty much, even though, like, I know Ben Shapiro and Milo Yiannopoulos haven't been, like, they've clashed and stuff like that. Like, still at the same time, the same viewer watches both those people, you know what I mean? And anyway, I just noticed, like, a sort of a togetherness about it all. So this is all this to sort of say, this is sort of to frame, like, the idea that I'm not, like, some fucking, like, leftist SJW person. Like, I listen to all those people and frankly probably relate to them more, but Sam Harris is another guy that's been on Joe Rogan a number of times, and that's how I became aware of him. And he's had some interesting podcasts on there. Probably his most interesting moment to me was him talking about the rise of AI and how he thinks that that's going to kind of play out in the sociological, societal effects that that's going to have. So that was an interesting podcast to listen to. And I came away from that thinking that he was a pretty smart guy. But honestly, I got to go into this most recent thing because I don't really know who else I had to talk to about it. I don't really, I'm not in a place where where I'm especially like outgoing or so social right now with a bunch of different people, so I haven't really had a good chance to talk with anyone about this. So I'm just going to try and put it out there, maybe in the form of a video. I've tried to kind of explain it a little bit to my girlfriend, but I don't know how much she really cares. But Joe had Sam. This is how I became aware of the situation. So again, I'm coming at this from a place of being basically a Joe Rogan viewer and listener. And Joe had Sam on, and it was Sam and this Middle Eastern guy, Majid, whatever his last name is. And I listened to that podcast, and I just couldn't believe it. I'm sitting there like, because here's the thing with Sam Harris, like I was like, okay, yeah, he's interesting, but I've listened to him, you know, he was on Bill Maher, and, you know, he was basically saying that Muslims, because of their adherence to the Quran, as in a more strict sense than Christians to the Bible, or what have you, than other religions, which have sort of modernized a little bit. He was just saying essentially that you know, Islam is just an inherently violent religion, and it's mostly because just people follow that book more closely, and yada yada yada. And okay, I listened to that, and you know what, I wasn't that bothered by it. It's like, okay, like this is like a right-wing position. This is how a lot of them feel. And you know what? I think there's some ground to stand on in terms of like, especially when you look at like Europe or Canada, and there's like extreme abuse that is happening from Muslim immigrants. And that's not to say that I'm opposed to immigration or anything like that, but it's like like in Europe, you can see how there is sort of a danger to being dishonest about just the objective facts, because horrible things are happening, you know, and people aren't calling them out. People aren't calling out these human trafficking rings and just crimes, sex crimes that are happening, because no one wants to be the person wants to say, you know, Muslims are doing it, which is like obviously fucking stupid. You know what I mean? I mean, if people are being groomed for sex, or if something like that is happening, and you know, even if there's a disparate level of a certain population that's doing it, like, okay, you know what I mean? And I think that people do get sensitive about stuff to the point where it's actually dangerous. I do believe that, and I do understand that point of view, and I'm fully on board with that. But just to sort of get into that a little bit, you have to be able to understand that, yes, the pendulum can swing to the extreme left. Of course it can. And of course that's bad. Okay? But I would hope that you were wary, and that you would pay attention to the point at which the pendulum, in the culture, in the society, just in the way that we think, swings too far the other way, okay? Because I understand with Obama, you know, you feel like he wasn't really looking out for white people. I get it, you know what I mean? And it's, you know, there's maybe an argument there, like, okay, like, you know, there's an argument of saying, I don't want to wake up every day and have to think, you know, I'm bad because I'm white. Okay, and reasonable should want you to have to live that way. But you got to understand that identity politics, this politics of identity, is not exclusive to left-wing people, and it's not exclusive to any race, because identity politics is when your opinions and your talking points are completely formed by inherent physical traits, like on the color of your skin, your religion, etc., etc. And it is 100% possible for any gender or religion or race to fall prey to this way of thinking, and to just sort of put blinders on and become tribal. And to get back to the matter at hand, it is alarming to me. It is alarming to me as a person who has considered all these right-wing points of view, as a person who came into this thinking that Ezra Klein was more or less just a fucking whatever, you know, SJW, virtue signaling, you know, the whole 9 yards in terms of that. I'm really disturbed at the outcome of all this, because what I heard and the way I continue to feel about this is, first of all, I listened to that Joe Rogan that he was on, and Sam is just bitching, and I personally see right through it, you know what I mean, because he's just fucking crying about how he's on the Southern Poverty Law Center website, blah blah blah, and he is virtue signaling like a motherfucker, bringing this Muslim guy on, you know, going, oh, look at me, I'm fucking friends with the Muslim, of course I couldn't do this. That's fucking virtue signaling, you pussy ass bitch. I wish Sam Harris would get the fuck beat out of him, dude. I wish he would have to go in front of someone unfiltered who wasn't afraid to you know, to tell him how it really was. I would like, this is a call to violence, and that's hate, that's real hate speech, so I shouldn't do that, okay? Because that's not, you know, that's not the way for an intellectual debate to happen. But like so I rescind that, I retract that immediately. But I'm never gonna meet fucking Sam Harris, so it doesn't matter. But like, dude, are you fucking baby, dude? You fucking baby. You're sitting there the whole of this conversation, the whole of that Joe Rogan podcast, this is Sam's entire point bottled down to like one sentence. Black people are inherently stupider than white people. Now, if you have any level of experience with black people, which, yes, okay, it's not a SJW thing, it's not a virtue signaling thing to say, it's important to have experience. If you're going to talk about someone, you have to talk to them. That's just like a thing, man. That's just like, and again, I'm sorry for the threat of violence, because I totally agree. Like, the only speech that shouldn't be allowed is speech that threatens violence, and I've already done that, so I apologize for that. But what's really starting to disturb me about the Joe Rogan podcast, and this thing in particular, is like Joe said it too, you know, and I'm not trying to throw Joe under the bus. I haven't given up on that podcast, you know, but it's like, people are going to complain about like affirmative action and that sort of thing, like, and then in the same breath say, well, they're trying to make me, you know, have more black people on or something like that. It's like, no, man, you're talking shit about fucking black people. If you're talking shit about someone, you have to have the fucking balls to have them on. Like, that's just the way it is. I don't care if you're right wing or left wing or whatever. I don't care if it's apolitical. If you're gonna sit there and talk shit about a race of people or about a specific person or about a type of person, you have to have the fucking nutsack to be able to actually talk to them and talk to people. This has been the whole right wing thing, is that oh, they don't want to argue or whatever. And I've taken people, you know, at their word and even gotten upset, like Milo, you know, saying when Milo got fucking whatever, when NPR censored him, they wouldn't air his interview. It's like, that shit's crazy to me. Okay, the same thing goes for your side. I mean, how can you sit there and argue till you're blue in the face that people don't want to have a conversation, and then fucking Sam Harris, I mean, just the whole backstory of how he challenged Ezra to a debate and then he backed down. You can tell that Sam knows that there's something not quite right about what he's doing. You can just tell by their actions. You could not hear the content of this debate and you could know that Sam is the one who doesn't feel comfortable with what he's saying, and Ezra is just completely matter of fact. He's so calm, and he's just, and quite frankly, he dances around, he floats like a butterfly and stings like a fucking bee around a disgruntled, angry, bitching Sam Harris in this debate. I mean, it's unbelievable. Sam grunts, he's like, Ezra, and it's like fucking... And Ezra is just totally calm. And again, this is coming from someone who thought Ezra Klein was just basically thoroughly useless SJW piece of shit. And Sam Harris sounds like he's fucking drunk. He sounds like he's drunk. And he doesn't cede one bit to the point that he might be wrong. This is what it is. Sam Harris wants to be able to say, this is the whole argument. Sam Harris wants to be able to say that black people are stupider than white people. That's what he wants to have the ability to say and to not be criticized. He wants no criticism to come from him. When it's obvious, again, I've listened to Sam talk about, you know, Muslims and how they're inherently violent. I've heard him sit there and try to explain for an hour to Hannibal Buress why black people deserve to be... or why it's inevitable that they're going to be more, that they're going to have more adverse interactions with police officers, okay? And none of those things made me 100% jump the gun on him, and none of those things made me completely write off Sam Harris, but I got to tell you that I'm at that point now, and it's because I'm just so shocked that that anyone could actually think this way. You know what I mean? And be so thick and so obtuse and so dense as to not understand, you know what I mean? I mean, first of all, just, I mean, hopefully there's people out there who get it and who know just off the bat how absurd it is to, at this point in human history, in American history, to suggest that black people are just genetically predisposed to be dumber than white people. I mean, I get it. You know what I mean? I mean, slavery is over. Jim Crow is over. But guess what? There's still people alive who were alive for Jim Crow. It's not that long ago, okay? It's just not. Like, I get it that there's, and this is the Republican argument that I've been able to follow and that I've been able to agree with to some extent, is that at some point we do need to move past these societal problems. I mean, that's 100% factual. But it's crazy to suggest that there are not still lingering effects of slavery and Jim Crow. I mean, come on, people. Like, I mean, it can't be, it's not one, it's not the other. It's not people need to get completely over it. It's not that they don't sort of need to try to figure out what they can do to maybe get over it, okay? It's somewhere in the middle there, and we need to work a little bit harder. We need to use our brains a little bit more, and you know, that's just all there is to it, because neither side is completely right, and it's just nuts. It really is. And at this point, after having watched that, you know, I was pretty much sympathetic towards a lot of these guys, a lot of these right-wing guys, but now I don't know what to think, because it's obviously gotten to a point where people are just so dense, you know what I mean? Because the reception to this has been overwhelmingly that Sam is oppressed because he's not allowed to talk about the fact that genetically, that the genetic science suggests that black people are dumber than white people. And again, you know, that science is obviously impervious to the fact that, you know, there's lingering societal effects of some of the oppression that black people have faced in American history. I get white. I'm white, and I get it. Like, it's hard. These things are hard to come to grips with and stuff, and it's hard. You know what I mean? And we you don't want to think about it every day, but I'm just calling for people to just use your heads here a little bit, and you know, try a little bit harder, because you're not, the way that this reception has been to Sam and his obvious ideological bent, his obvious use of white identity politics. I mean, you don't get to cry that other races are using identity politics and then turn a blind eye to your own. You just don't get to do that. That was the whole entire point that Ezra was making the whole time, is that the science that Sam was sitting there trying to stand on with 2 feet is not sound, and it's not good yet, and there's no way of saying it. And so much credit goes out to Ezra Klein for the way that he handled that debate. I gained so much respect for him after that, and that was coming from a place of having very little respect for that guy, for that man. It really showed me a lot, and I think all you had to do was just listen to their demeanors. Again, Ezra the whole time calm, cool, and collective, having great answers, you know, just trying to explain without, honestly, it's so much to his credit that he was not coming out to insult. He said it a bunch of times too. He's like, Sam, look, I have not insulted you. I have not said these things to you. These are my real opinions. I'm not trying to fucking virtue signal. I'm not doing all that stuff. Like, I really believe this. I really believe that the science is not good, that you are standing on. The science is not proven. It's not good. And Ezra didn't come right out and say that, but he did say it eventually, because he didn't want to come out and say, like, fuck you, Sam, you're an idiot. But here's me saying, fuck you, Sam, you're really stupid. And you have a lot of fucking stands that are, that's the most embarrassing thing for Sam Harris about this whole situation, is that no one fucking cares, dude. You have stands. You may or may not know what that means, but that's a term that was created after the Eminem song "Stand" came out. And if you don't know that song, you should fucking listen to it, because the whole point is that these fans will fucking follow you to ends that are disturbing. Okay, the point is that of that song is that Eminem, talks about beating his wife and stuff and killing her in songs, and then the fan goes out and beats their wife and kills her. Listen, people, no one, these political, these philosophical, these cultural figureheads are not gods, okay? I don't care who it is. I don't care if he's left-wing. I don't care if you're left-wing. I don't care if he's right-wing. I don't care if you're right-wing. You need to think for yourself, and that's what the right has been saying. But, as finally we get to see that a lot of it has been empty platitudes. A lot of it. No one wants to think for themselves. No one does. Everybody wants to be told how they should think, and it's fucking embarrassing, man. It's very extremely fucking embarrassing. And I think if you're not even willing to maybe consider the fact, especially since Sam Harris just got destroyed, and I'm not going to say, I'm not calling for the end of Sam Harris's career. I wouldn't do that, because I don't think that's right. But that's the whole point, is that his career is not hurt at all. He's got an army of fucking stands that will stand behind him, because they just blindly fucking believe that anyone who's left-wing and doesn't actually believe what they're saying and is just pushing identity politics, and that there's no real merit or thought put into it, and it's really disturbing to see a mob like that. You know what I mean? It's exactly the same as a left-wing, a Hillary supporting mob. Like, it's the same fucking thing, but it's on the right side. And let's be real, that's maybe a more dangerous mob at the end of the day, because a lot of potentially stronger people are on the right-wing side in a lot of senses, and I don't know, man. It's just disturbing how tribal we are, and how capable we are of just latching on. I'm more upset and disappointed than anything about the fact that people didn't realize how thoroughly Ezra Klein smashed Sam Harris in this debate. I mean, it's frustrating in any classical sense. I think any sort of debate scholar or anything like that would have to look at that and conclude that that's what went down. So anyway, obviously, if anyone even ever watches this video, the Sam Harris stands are going to swarm. That's just the way it is. They're like any other mindless fucking mob that just does not think for themselves. I mean, I'm sorry, but the tide has just turned in my mind. Turning Point USA, this has shown a lot of true colors for me. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean that I'm partisan now. It doesn't mean that I'm going to stop listening to right-wing people or whatever, but it's really disappointing to me. And I'm just one guy, you know what I mean? I mean, my opinion doesn't mean that much, but I don't know. I'm just worried. I'm officially worried about where this is going. That's real. That's real talk. R. Kelly, real talk. So that's about it for me. That's the rant. Looks like we're closing in on about 30 minutes, but I just urge people, if you're religious or whatever, maybe pray on this topic. You know what I mean? If you really have any sort of faith or belief in a higher power, because this could get bad, guys. I mean, I don't think we're quite there yet, but I think you just see this bubble sort of building. And of course, you know, that's not to say that there aren't great things happening. I would never say that. You know, I specifically with Trump, I can't believe that what's happening in the Koreas. Like, that's amazing. That's incredible. And I think people that are diehard left don't understand. A lot of them are either don't understand or aren't willing to admit how significant that is. I mean, that's incredible. The economy's doing good. So, you know, I'm not a person who's going to sit here and just, we should impeach Trump. I don't even believe that. You know what I mean? I'm not, that's not who I am. And I think that I think great stuff is happening personally. And I think an idea of just sort of personal responsibility and that sort of thing is great. And I think it was something that was definitely lost on the average American during the Obama administration. That being said, we have to support our brothers and sisters here, you know, especially those who feel the exact same way that you felt during the Obama administration. I mean, that's just the way it is. You know what I mean? I mean, now you get to feel like you're the shining crown prince of the ball, and you know, for Trump's term, minorities don't get that anymore. They feel how you felt during Obama. So just fucking understand that. You know what I mean? I mean, come on. Because we have to live together. Like, that's not going to change. You know, Trump's not going to cleanse the fucking country of minorities. I mean, come on. What's he going to be, supreme champ? I mean, first of all, he's going to be dead in 10 to 20 years. And that's just not how America works. You know what I mean? Probably, whether it's 4 years or 8 years with Trump, probably we're going to have a liberal president after this. We're going to have a left-wing, fucking maybe Bernie Sanders. You know what I mean? And the way that you get treated during that time is 100% dependent. It should be anyway. In a fair society, it's dependent on how you